Innovation and Edu-Academic Inc. Before we dive into today's session, it is my honor to introduce our distinguished session expert, Dr. Kunal Soni sir, an esteemed Associate Professor of Finance and Accounting at the School of Management, GSS University, Vadodara. With over a decade of academic experience and 3 years in industry, he holds an impressive academic profile, including a BBA and MBA in finance, PhD in management, and various specialized diplomas. His contributions to academia are prolific, with 24 publications in prestigious journals, including Scopus, ABDC, UGC-CARE, and Web of Science. His innovative research has even earned him a patent under the Intellectual Property Rights Act of 1970, recognized by the Government of India for his groundbreaking work on techno-innovation and growth of the Indian share market. His accolades are numerous. He has received 3 Best Research Paper Awards at international conferences sponsored by UGC and AICTE, and has been recognized as the best faculty of the Management Department at Parul Institute of Management. A sought-after research person at Session Chair, he has contributed his expertise to over 20 D schools, UGC, SRDCs, and research institutes across India. As an innovative educator, he is proficient in advanced analytical tools including SPSS, AMOS, Smart TLS, eViews, Advanced Excel, and R. His commitment to continuous learning is evidenced by his participation in more than 20 faculty development programs at prestigious institutions such as IIM Ahmedabad and IIM Visakhapatnam. With 19 research papers presented at national and international conferences and 17 seminars and workshops to his credit, he is a prominent figure in the field of finance, accounting, and management. So with that, I now invite Dr. Kunal Soni sir to begin his presentation. Thank you. Over to you, sir. Kunal sir, you are not audible.
Yeah, so screen is visible, madam?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So good morning, one and all. So today's topic is, you know, the how to write a research paper, right? So we all are hunting for the research paper, because it is a part of our curriculum and it is a part of our academics, right? So irrespective of the field in which we are, right, we have to be the researcher. Why research is important and why we are giving that much importance to this research in this today's era. So the simple answer to this particular question is we have to get the practical exposures. We should have the practical understanding, and whatever subject area and domain in which we are dealing with, we must have to play with the data, right? Because without data, we cannot prove the content and we cannot convince to the target audience, in a manner we want to convey our message, or, in a manner we want to, make it convince to the people to whom we are teaching, right? So data is always, it's a stepping stone to, grip out and, to pull out your topics, to pull out your concept, to pull out your understanding, in a manner in which we have to produce, or in a manner which is required as per the standard of the industries, or, as per the standards of the today's competitive era, right? So that is why research is very, very important. And that's why we all are looking for writing a research paper. When I'm talking about, writing a research paper, that doesn't only means just to draft a paper, because to draft a paper is an art, So there are multiple and, many types of research papers are, in a today's scenario has been drafted and is still in the process of drafting. But the quality that you are drafting to the particular research paper, that does matters. How qualitative your research work is, how much innovative your research is, you know, how much your research will contribute to the societal importance, right? So these are the important parameters that we must have to take into consideration, before we, finalize our topic and, we are ready with the drafting of the paper. Right? Because before writing a paper, there are a lot many parameters that we must have to give a brainstorming, before starting our research paper. When you have this kind of answers to these questions, then you will be able to produce, in a right kind of research paper in a manner that you are looking for. Otherwise, it will be very difficult, to publish this kind of research paper into good quality journals. When we talks about a quality journal means, obvious answer to this question is we are talking about the Scopus, Web of Science, ABDC journals, Taylor and Francis journal. So these journals are having their own certain criteria, to make the paper qualitative. But before reaching to the author's guideline and the format of the journal, we must need to ensure that whatsoever research paper that we are producing, that must be fit to the journal, that journal scope, and most importantly, whatsoever parameter, research idea, research problem, data analysis, whatsoever things that you have applied in your research paper, that should be qualitative. That should have some relevance. The data should be authentic. So there are many parameters, that we have to see to it when we are talking about the research paper, and we will also see how the body of research paper should be. So these are the important things that we all have to see to it. Okay. Uh, so research paper. So the first things that we must need to see to it that we must think about the idea generation, right? So let's say I have decided to write a research paper, but on what topic? What should be the parameters, right? So I have to generate the idea, right? Now, how to generate an idea that is, very spacious and very precise. Let's say if I'm talking about the research idea generation. So research idea generation is always works on, I always say in my all the sessions, that research idea generation always start from EIC model, right? So according to the EIC model, the idea will be generated. Now the question is, what is EIC? EIC stands for, E stands for economic, I stands for industry, and C stands for company. That is called EIC model. What is this EIC model and how this EIC model is going to work out as far as your research idea is concerned, research topic is concerned, right? So EIC model is, let's say you have decided to find, this is EIC model. So E stands for economic, I stands for industry, and C stands for company, right? So this is called EIC model. Now I want to, see the consumer perception towards online banking, right? So I want to check the consumer perception towards the online banking. So online banking about what? Even if I'm going with the banking sector, so there are public sector units, there are private banks, there are cooperative banks, there are RRB, regional rural bank. In which area I want to go for it, right? So first of all, I wanted to check the consumer perception toward the online banking. So I want to check the consumer perception, right? Where? Let's say I want to find out in MP. So this is called area economy. So first of all, I had decided I wanted to go for India. And in India, if I want to check, then I'll go for Madhya Pradesh, right? Then I have to check consumer perception about what? So I want to go for banking sector. I can go for FMCG sector also, right? I can go for, textile industry also, right? So this is called industry, right? So this is EIC, that is I stands for industry. And then I have to go for C. So here I had decided a banking sector, right? So banking sector, again, has been divided into regional rural bank, private sector bank, public sector bank, cooperative sector banks. and there are many NBFCs. So which banking sector? So this is called C stands for company. Let's say I want to go for PSU. Now again in PSU there are 6 to 7 banks. Which banks? So let's say I want to go for selected banks based on the business that they are journeying from the Indian market. So let's say I'm going for SBI, then BOB, and I wanted to go for PNB. So these are the 3 banks on which I want to check the consumer perception towards online banking. So this is called EIC model. So if you think about this EIC model, so ultimately you will be able to frame your title according to this. So whenever you are framing the title of the research paper, you must have to think about the EIC model. Is it clear? Everyone? Have you thought about this? Have you done this practice in the past? Whenever you have planned to draft a research paper or you were trying to make a research paper, have you done this exercise?
Yes.
Right.
Great.
So this is the ideal practice, that we have to do. See, research paper, when you are going to write a research paper, right? And when you are finalizing your research title, even after going with this EIC model, your research title will be reframed by 5 to 6 times once you are going with the further parameters of the research. Is it clear? And you must have experienced this, right? So based on the data availability, based on the techniques, tools, and the things results that you are receiving, your research title is also going to be changed. So accordingly, we have to see. But yes, at the initial stage, if we want to reach to the nearest to the topic, we must have to, make a funnel process, right? So research is a funnel process. So we must have to make this funnel process in a manner. We had gone through economy, industry, and company. And out of the economy, industry, and company, there are many economies. So we have pick up one economy, we have pick up one industry, and we have pick up few companies. So this is called funnel process, right? So how we have selected these parameters, they have certain, base of taking this particular topic in our research. So this is called idea generation. So this is a usual process of research paper, right? So research always starts with research idea. So research idea means if at all you are planning to write a research paper, you must have at least some idea in your mind that I want to do the research on this particular topic, right? So this is called research idea. At least I was aware about that. I want to check the consumer perception in financial industry. Which industry, where, I don't know. Then I must have to go through the literature review. So I wanted to check the consumer perception in the finance industry. So I must have gone through the multiple literatures and I must have find out that the researcher in the past have already find out the consumer perception on so many other parameters, right? Let's say, they have must find out the consumer perceptions on the banking sectors. They must have find out the consumer perception towards the cooperative sectors. They must have find out the consumer perception towards, uh, clear. So that is called, the literature review. So literature review is very, very essential part, right? So that is what it is. And it is most important that you must go through the proper literature review and find out the right kind of problems that you want to address in your research paper. So literature review is very, very important and essential process that you must have to do. So here you must have find out that you want to go for banking sector, right? You want to go for banking sector, or even if you are not aware that you want to go for banking sector, so that idea you can always get it from the literature review. So in banking sector, whatsoever research has already been done, that idea you will always get it from the literature review. So what additional you can contribute, that is called research. And that is why we always talks about this terminology, research. That is the things which is already searched. We are making research on this, right? We are not finding anything new. Always do remember, we are finding additional things, right? We are always finding additional things in the research, right? We are not finding new things. We are finding additional things in the things which is already being generated, which is already been identified, right? So that is called research. Clear? New additional things. That is called literature review. So whenever you do the literature review, you will always get all the glimpse of the things that you need to incorporate in your research paper. Right. So literature review should be very essential, and you must have to do very properly and authentically. And do which you must have to compare the previous research paper findings, conclusions, data analysis, and through which you will get an idea how the previous researcher has been processed and how you can make something addition out of the previous research. So that is called the comparisons of the research paper. And that is what I was telling you that you will get a theoretical problem. So after doing literature review, I came to the conclusion that I want to find out the consumer perception, right, towards the online banking. Consumer perception towards online banking in Indore city, right? Let's say I want to do it for Indore city. So this is called Indore city. Might be consumer perception towards online banking, in public sector unit, selected public sector unit. So under the selected public sector unit, we have selected three banks: SBI, BOB, and Punjab National Bank. So that things is not has been done by previous researcher in Indore city. So if at all I want to check the consumer perception towards online banking with respect to the selected public sector banks, that is State Bank, Bank of Baroda, and Punjab National Bank. So this idea I will get it from the literature review. If at all the research has already been done in Indore city on these three banks, then I don't need to produce again in short period of time. Although it is for long period of time, then it is okay. But if it is happening in short period of time, then I don't have to proceed further for this particular aspect. So all these aspect has been seen by the journals also. We must assume that who will see to it. But if at all you are submitting your titles to any journal, so journal must see that is there any research has been done on this, what uniqueness in your title, what uniqueness in your idea, and how this idea will be helpful to the future researcher as a part of the literature review. So this is very, very essential that every journal needs to answer, and every researcher needs to incorporate such aspect into research paper. And based on the research problem that you have already identified from the research idea and literature review, based on the research problems, you need to frame the questions. That is where here we talks about the questionnaires, right? So your questionnaire should be, structured based on the problems that you have identified. Whatsoever problems, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So whatever problems that you need to identify, based on that, all the questions, patterns, sections you need to frame that covers up all the problems in a sufficient manner, in a manner you want to answer. It should not leave out the material information that you have to ask to the respondent. That is called the empirical research questions. So this is very essential as a part of the research process. Research design, once your questions has been done, how you will proceed further in terms of data collection, sampling, design, sampling collections, sampling techniques, data analysis tools and techniques. So how research design is basically called how you will plan your research. Research design itself is the planning of your research. Research plus design. Design itself is a planning of research that covers every aspect of sampling techniques, data collection, data analysis, and all such aspects, sample size, right? So how your research is going to be processed. So at this stage, you need to plan out all the technical aspect of your research paper. That is called the research design. Very, very essential, right? So research designs are many: descriptive, cross-sectional, longitudinal, that we will see in the later part of the presentation. Then you must need to switch over to the data collection. Once your research design has been done, you must have to go for the data collection. So data collection, you need to see to it based on how you will decide the data collection. So we must be aware about that data collections are two types. One is primary and second is secondary data. So how we will proceed for the primary data collection and how we will proceed for the secondary data collection. So this answer is completely depends upon this one, because this problems will define your questions. So if based on the problem, if you're going for the asking to the people, so this is called primary study. But if at all you are going for historical data, where you need to make a comparison between the various years of data, various months of data, and you have to make a growth and comparative analysis, and it is called secondary data. So primary and secondary data collection is completely depends upon the research design that you will select, and research design is completely depends upon the questions we have framed, and question is depends upon research problem. Research problem is very, very essential, the heart of the research paper, that you must need to draft in a proper way, that it should represent the entire research work in the further process. Once your data collection has been done, so based on the data collection, the data analysis tools and techniques will be applicable. If your data collection is on primary study, then you need to go for parametric and non-parametric test. If your data collection is on secondary, then you must need to go for descriptive research, descriptive analysis, frequency analysis, correlation, regression, ANOVA, right? So these are the important aspects that you must have to go through it, and you must have the idea about this particular aspect, right? Even if you go for regression, so there are multiple types of regression. If you go for econometric analysis, right, which is a combination of finance and economics, right? So you must need to go for this particular aspect. And once your data analysis has been done, you must have to answer to the empirical questions. So now here is the question is, which empirical questions we are talking about? So we are talking about this empirical questions. So ultimately, whatsoever process that you have done over here, right, finally, if you reach to the interpretation part, so this interpretation should be highlighting the answer to this questions, that is called empirical research questions. So once your data analysis is done, you must be in a position to answer all the questions that you have framed as a part of research problem. That is called answering to the empirical research questions. And based on the answering questions, you will be able to provide the right kind of interpretation of the data and your research paper, and ultimately to your research topic, right? And this analysis and interpretation, once you will receive, you must have to draft in a proper way. And once it has been drafted, you must have to make the comparison with the previous researches. So now you will have to see this, whatever the results that has been received by the previous researcher in their own area, in their own domains, are you receiving the same results, or you might have certain differences? And if you have certain differences, note it down, where is the difference? And there is no difference, you should also note it down, there is no difference. Many a times I have noted in the in the academic fraternity that people are always worried, or even I have noted in many universities, um, they are guiding research scholar in a way that if the null hypothesis is accepted, so they are saying that it is not acceptable, right? If no difference, then why you do research? But how you will come to know that if there is no difference? Only when you will do the research. So research results can be come in a both the manners, whether there is a difference or there is no difference. So both the results are correct. If there is no difference, that is also the findings. And if there is a difference, that is also the findings, right? It doesn't make sense. We are not here to make the difference in the parameters. So if you being a researcher know that if there is a difference, then I must say that why you have to do all this process once you are knowing the results? But if at all you are not knowing the result, then only you are proceeding for this research work, right? So having no difference in any aspect is also the results, and we must have to accept in a positive manner. That is called comparison with the earlier researcher. And finally, you have to conclude that what has been done in the past, what you have done in this research paper, and how your research is going to be different from the previous researcher. That means what are the unique findings that you have noticed out of your research process. That is called the conclusions of the research, right? So this is called the entire research process, starting from research idea and finally end with the conclusions. Any sort of questions, any doubt in this particular process, please ask. If anybody has to share something, you have not understood something. Completely okay? Anywhere you are facing any difficulties?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Yeah.
Sir, is it necessary to check the reliability and validity of the questionnaire?
Obviously.
And
Why?
what are the
Yes, please. बोलिए बोलिए.
what are the way? I mean, different tools to assess the. I mean, except Cronbach Alpha, other what SPL softwares are available to assess the validity?
I think all the softwares, Actually, software SPSS reliability. See, if you go to SPSS, you have the cron batch alpha, right? Then if you go for the econometrics data, right? Then you have to have a stationarity, right? Jerkebera test in eViews.
Okay.
If you go for the MOS, right? Then in MOS there are multiple parameters to fit the model in terms of API, CPI. These are the indexes that you have it in MOS. So depending
Right.
upon the types of data that you have it, you will have the reliability test, right? But
So,
definitely reliability test is not available in Excel. So that
okay.
is different aspect. But what is important in reliability is, so whether your data collection is qualitative or not.
Okay.
Sometimes, you must have observed that if people is not interested to fill your research paper, research uh, questionnaire,
But
and they
yes,
just answer like neutral, 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 neutral. So this kind of research will not find out anything. So if
yes.
at all in your research, this kind of, observations, this kind of questions are there. So what research is assuming, what reliability is saying that you are asking all the questions which have, where the people don't have to share anything. So if at all you are putting this neutral, neutral result in SPSS and then you are applying Cronbach alpha, so this is always going to be downside. I'm not saying that neutral is not the answer, but
Mm,
80% answer of the neutral, that means software is saying to you that either people have not filled it up, the responses by their
mm,
own willingness, or there is another interpretation of this situation is that you have not asked to the right variables to the respondent, which are affecting on this particular topic. So either of the problems, either you have not picked it out the right problem of the respondent, or the respondent has not taken this research questions in a positive way.
okay.
Right. So if Cronbach alpha is coming low, then you are proceeding for the further analytical parts in terms of, the parametric, non-parametric, and most importantly, factor analysis. So if you
Yes.
reach to the factor analysis part, when you have to reach to the exploratory factor analysis, you won't be able to get your factors with the high variance loading.
Okay.
And if you are failed to get high variance loading factors, right, then forget about that. You will be able to run the confirmatory factor analysis in terms of structure equation modeling with mediation and moderation effect.
Okay. Okay.
So this is, cumulative effect that you will carry forward. So it is very, very essential that you take care of all the essential necessary steps to maintain your research on a qualitative perspective. And most importantly, once your research formation is in qualitative way, your data collection should be very authentic and precise if you need to carry out your research in the right directions.
So, what is the ideal sample size for a PhD purpose? I mean,
There is a, if you go to Google and if you find out online, right,
mm,
sample size calculator, you have seen this?
no.
Okay, I'll just show you. So if you type on Google sample size calculator, right? So let's take an example. In which city you are,
Jaipur.
right? So if you want to carry out your research in Jaipur, so what is the approximate population size of Jaipur? 25 lakhs,
Maybe. Yes.
right? Okay. So this is confidence level, right? So we all in social science, so we must dealing in 95% confidence interval, that is 5% chances of error, that is significance level. Clear? So that is margin of error. So 5% and 95%. This is by default system generated. If you
Okay.
want, if you are from medical science, then you can
Yeah.
change to 99%. But
Okay.
we are in social science, so we have to keep it 95% confidence level. And population size, if you write here 25 lakhs, so you can see this 25 lakhs, right?
Yes.
And just do the calculation. So here you will get the answer. How much sample size you have to get it? Here you will get the answer. Just see to it. Can you see this?
385. Okay.
Right. So 385 is bare minimum sample size, irrespective of your population. If your population is going to more than 1 lakh, no, irrespective of your population, whether it is 25 lakhs, 50 lakhs, or 1 crore, minimum is 385,
Okay.
right? But on a safer side, by putting into consideration of 10 to 20% of the waste, responses, you must aim to 500. So at least you will reach to this criteria,
Okay.
right, as a part of your PhD process. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so right, so this is research process. So what are the key areas of research paper? So when you are typing your research paper, you must have to see this abstract, keywords, introduction, literature review, research methodology, data analysis and interpretation, findings and conclusion, recommendations of the study. Right. So these are the important parameters that you must have to convey and you must have to cover as a part of your research paper. So this is called the body of your research paper. Here you can also include one more things that is called gel classification. There is a gel classification for every research paper, which is produced by American Psychological Association, right? That is, gel classification. So you must have to go on through it. So gel classification, you also have to get it for the research paper. So readers will get an idea how this research paper and in which category this particular research paper is falling. Yeah, so this is the body structure of a research paper. So let's talk about research design. So qualitative versus quantitative. Basically, we talks about this. Nomothetic ideographic is about individual person or group of persons. So that is not more important as far as social study, social science is concerned. So qualitative research work means once your research work is on qualitative, that means you are not dealing with the data, right? You are just dealing with the opinions of the people, perceptions of the people, and for which you are not collecting data, but you are just collecting the opinions of the people as a part of your research. And based on the various opinions that you have covered out of the various research paper, you are trying to conclude your research work. That based on the various comments that has been received by the previous researcher, here is my observation. So qualitative research is basically, basically it is a secondary research. Is it clear? It is mostly secondary research. Fine enough? Okay. And when we talks about quantity, so quantitative research can be go into both the directions, primary and secondary. So primary, if you go for it, then questionnaire, interview, right? And if you are going for secondaries and you are taking the data from the official website, right? Agencies, authentic agencies, like if you are going for banking data, so the authentic agencies for the banking data is RBI. You must take the data from the RBI. Yes or no? You will get the data from the RBI. Clear? So this research is going to be primary and secondary both, right? But qualitative research is always going to be secondary research, and quantitative is in primary and secondary. Why? Because quantitative research plays in numbers. Is it clear? It plays in numbers, right? Where you have to deal with the data, numeric data. So that is called quantitative. But on the authenticity part is this research is having high authenticity. Clear? Because you are trying to collect the data and you are trying to analyze the data and you are trying to put your own observations out of the research. Of the quality. I'm not saying that quality is not good. Quality is either more difficult because to judge the opinion of people is always difficult rather than to judge your own observations, right? But authenticity part, when we talks about, then let's say I'm covering 20 research papers from the different areas, but if I'm doing research in my area, then might be the many factors which are not common for the city in which I'm conducting my research and the city in which the other researcher has conducted the research in India itself. So there might be this kind of parameters are always going to differ, and we must have to respect those parameters. So this is called research design. So qualitative versus quantitative. So here you can see this. Qualitative research generally deals in words, image, and the subjective. Subjective means you cannot, rely on it. It is subjective variations, just like a human opinion. If you take opinion someone today, and if tomorrow somebody will influence that particular person, then do you think that the opinion of the person will remain same? The mindset of the person will remain same. Even after 1 minute, the mindset of the person cannot remain same. And that is why it is working on the imaginations, right? So if person is going for the shopping, the moment he is observing, she is observing, different shops. So his perception, his calculation is going to change for all the shops. Until and unless if he visit first shop, then if he visits second shop, then his or her perceptions toward the first shop is always going to change. It will not remain, constant. Reliability factor is very less. But here you are dealing with the numbers, and most importantly, you are dealing with the logics and the objectives. So here you are doing subjective, and here you are doing objective. And that is why the quantitative data is deal with the numbers, historical data, which have some relevance, some reliance on the previous activities, and through which you can be able to relate to the coming period, and you can make the forecasting, make a planning of the coming time period. So this is the beauty of the quantitative research in terms of the quality research. So qualitative research, is an exploratory mainly. So this is exploratory design is nothing but it is called research design. Research design, right? Exploratory research means you are exploring somebody's theory. That is called exploratory research design, right? So when you have qualitative research, assume that people have meaningful actions or experience that can be interpreted. So qualitative research always assume that whenever you are taking the opinions of the other researchers, the current researcher always assume that the who researcher who has done the research in the past, they must have the meaningful actions and experience in the past. And that's why you are, he or she is referring to his or her research paper. That is what is the qualitative research. But sometimes and many times it is not true. But because you cannot make a predictions about the other situation, so it is very difficult. So areas of research, data collection for qualitative research. So it could be economical observations, articles, it comes from the flexibility, open the door, why, how. So many questions, you can go for the interview questions and all such aspects for which you can collect the qualitative data. Then Bill talks about the quantitative research. So quantitative research always works on the survey, right? So if you want to go for the survey, so these are the mode of survey. Either you can go for telephone, you can go for personal visit, you can go for the mail, and you can go for the other electronic mediums, right? So telephone, you can go for telephonic interviews. Personal means you can meet the person either at their home, either at their office by taking an appointment, or if at all you are going into the market for the sample collection, so you ask to the any random person to answer these questions and you can collect the data. So this is how you can proceed with the quantitative research, so right. And mails, and that mail interview, panel interview, and electronic mail means if you are using any other software for the data collection. So quantitative research is purely depends upon data collection. Yes, please. Any doubts?
इसने पागल ने डिलीट कर दिया क्या?
सर ये एमटेक की स्टूडेंट है वैष्णवी तपासे, इसका गेट क्वालिफाई है, तो अपन जो पीजी स्कॉलरशिप पोर्टल है ना एआईसीटी का, वहाँ पे करते तो उसको ये बोनाफाइड चाहिए, तो सर का साइन चाहिए दे सकते हैं।
I request participants to please mute the mic.
लास्ट टाइम सर ऐसे किए थे सर, नाम सर करके और अपने पोर्टल पे एडिशनल करके नाम है अभी तक प्रिंसिपल करके मैंने कल सर को बताया
Ankita madam, please mute the mic.
मैम मैं साइन कर इसका कॉन्ट्रैक्ट पे साइन किया, डायरेक्ट साइन किया।
Neha madam, could you help me out?
वो तो अग्रवाल सर का सर वैसे ही किया ना, तो ठेकेदार के आने नहीं होंगे तो उसमें साइन किया।
का था ना, सर्वे था ना, 25,000 का था ना लास्ट ईयर।
क्या?
मतलब वही सैलरी क्या अभी किसका डालना है
अरे माता रानी आप बताओ ना, एक तो है नहीं।
सर आप साइन कर दोगे, मैं सर का नाम डाल
हाँ,
के
बाकी कुछ सुनते
हाँ,
हैं।
बाकी मैं फिल कर देती हूँ।
हाँ, तो बच्चे हैं तो नहीं हमारे को अपन को टेस्ट करना।
Thank you. So comparison of qualitative and quantitative research. So here is a comparison which I was talking about, that qualitative and quantitative. So qualitative is discovery of new idea, insight, and feelings. So feelings can be changed, but quantitative is always works on facts, estimation, which is based on historical data, right? Which is based on historical data. So the validity of the data on this part is very high, and that's why the types of research always is exploratory. Why? Because you are trying to explore the others' research. You are not proving your ideas. But here it is descriptive and casual research. You are trying to describe the scenario, right? That why this happening, what is happening, and casual means cause and effect relations. Cause and effect relation. So if I'm putting, impact on one variable, what could be the effect on other variables, right? So this is called cause and effect relations, right? So this is called descriptive and causal effect. Yeah. Then we have to go for types of questions. So if you are going for qualitative research, so basically the types of questions over here is open-ended, just like I told you that you can go for the interview and you can take the view of the people, or else you can go for semi-structured or unstructured probing, means you can have formal or informal talks, which is somehow it was planned or unplanned, detailed discussion on the particular topic. So it is just opinion sharing. Qualitative is always a structure way, because once your research data collection has been done, you won't be able to collect the data from the same respondent. Or if at all it is required, it is very tedious task, because if at all at one point of time you have collected data. Quantitative research is always mostly structured data, where what sort of data you require, you must have to plan well in advance. And accordingly, you have to frame the questions and you have to collect the responses. So here, the classification of research design that we have discussed in terms of qualitative and quantitative research. So exploratory and conclusive. So exploratory is basically for qualitative research, and quantitative research is descriptive and causal effect. And descriptive means, I have already explained that you have to describe the scenario, right? You have to describe the situation. As difference between cross and longitudinal. Let's say you are going for the survey for the consumer perception towards online banking. So I want the answer from the audience. Are you going to ask these questions to the multiple people on a single period of time, or are you going to ask this question to the single person for multiple times? What could be the answer? If I'm going for consumer perception survey towards online banking, so are you asking the same questions to the multiple audience, or you are asking multiple questions to the single audience at a single time? Any answer, any idea? So
Multiple questions to same audience.
multiple person to same audience, same time or multiple time?
Same time.
Perfect. So if your answer is this, that means you are going for questionnaire. Yes or no?
Yes.
Questionnaire has been designed for multiple people, same questions, but and in the same time. Let's say I will design 3 months time to for data collection from the consumers of the online banking, right? So my audience was decided, my time frame was decided, and this is a single time frame through which I will conduct 500 responses. This is called cross-sectional, so which is called descriptive cross-sectional. Are you getting it? So whenever you are going for primary data collection, and you have to design your research design, so it is called descriptive cross-sectional. Fine enough?
Yes.
And if at all you are going for, simple single audience, but you are asking these questions for multiple times, right, or multiple time frame. Let's say I want the data for net profit for 10 years. So I want the net profit data for 1 year, or I want the for 10 years, which is called long duration. Yes or no? 10 years.
Yes.
Same way, I want gross profit data for 10 years. Again, long duration. Or else I want to see this, your diet conscious net. So what was your weight before diet, right, in gym? And what is your weight after diet? So here, if I'm taking respondent 1, 2, 3, so my respondent are getting change or they are getting same. So I'm taking their opinion before diet, and once their diet is over, I'm taking their opinion. So my respondent are changing or they are same,
They are same,
but timing is same or different.
different.
Then it is longitudinal. Same variable, multiple time periods. It is called descriptive longitudinal. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. So research design, right? So basically it is called the heart of the research methodology, or rather I can say it is a part of research methodology. So whenever you are designing research methodology, so these are the important parameters that you must have to answer. That is called statement of problem, reviews of literature, that is a past review, right? That you have to answer. Then after you have to see to it, the scope of this study, objectives of this study, hypothesis, operational definition of the concept, significance of the study, that is societal importance, area of the samples, means in which area you are going to cover up your samples, methodology that you are going to use, sampling plans that you are going to incorporate, data tools, right, how you will collect the data, and chapterization schemes. Like, if at all my research paper have 5 chapters, so I should describe 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So what is the first is intro, second LR, third RM, fourth data analysis and interpretation, fifth finding, conclusion, and recommendation. And under this, just 3 to 4 lines for each chapter, you have to describe the things what you have done. So that is called chapterization scheme that you are putting into research methodological part. So research methodological part will cover this amount of content. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
These are the content that you must have to answer, and they all are correlated with each other. It always starts from statement of problems with the literature review, and based on the problems, you have to define your objectives, hypothesis, scope, definition of the concept, significance of the concept. So all these are interconnected with each other. Clear? Okay, so statement of problem is basically what is the actual problem that you have defined. Scope means what sort of things that you are going to cover in terms of the number of variables, parameters, right? So parameter is nothing but the variables or content that you are going to cover. Objective means based on the problem, what sort of, objectives are there. So it should be, objective should be define your scope of the study to the point, and unnecessary things you always have to avoid in the objective, right? So this is called objective. And again, objective will be decided based on the research design, exploratory, descriptive, and causal. Right. So this causal means cause and effect relations. Cause and effect relation, if you are trying to prove, you must have to go for the regression analysis. So we have less time, so I'm in a little bit hurry. So you must have to go for the regression analysis. Right. So that is what you must have to see to it. Then after hypothesis design. So hypothesis should be very clear, precise, and it should be representation and reflections of the objectives. Your hypothesis should always be linked with the objectives, right? It should not deviate from the objectives. And objective should always link with the research problems. And research problems should not be deviated from the research titles. So, so once you are going forward process, then you have to go for the backward process also to see to it that all the things are synchronized and matching with each other. So if at all in between a time, if what you have decided in the title is not actually possible in the execution part, then you have to go back to the title and you have to remodify it according to the requirements. So this is called forward and backward process as far as scientific research paper writing is concerned. Right, and null hypothesis can be, further divided into null and alternative hypothesis. So, so these are the acceptance rejection criteria for the hypothesis as well. Based on this, we have to make a judgment on the specific topic in which we are doing the study. Significance is always talks about the importance of the study, benefits of the study in terms of the target audience, that is called the societal importance. So we must have to see this, how your research is contributing to the particular area in which you are dealing with, and how your research is different from the previous researchers. So this is called the significance of this study. Geographical areas to be covered. So in which area you talks about in terms of the research, which area, which society you are targeting. So that is called the geographical concentrations that we all have to describe over here. That is called geographical locations. Sampling plans in terms of how you are going to collect the samples, what are the target populations, how you will approach them, how much amount of this, like one question was that how to find out the sample size. And I had shown you how to conclude the sample size based on significance level, margin of error, confidence interval, and the population size that you have it. Yeah, so that is based on that you have to plan out your sample size. And sampling techniques is always going to take out based on your title and objectives, just like a research design, whether it is exploratory, descriptive, or cross-sectional. So let's say if you're going for secondary data in terms of cause and effect relation, so your sample size sampling technique is like you are taking data from the online website, government official website like RBI, SEBI, right? So this is called quota sampling, right? That is called quota sampling, random sampling. We are taking the variables from the random base. But if at all you are going for all the primary study in terms of the questionnaires, and if you want to, explain the importance of your title to the target audience first, and then you want to, take the responses. Like if you want to take consumer perception towards the online banking, so I must ensure whenever I'll go for the data collection that the consumer to whom I'm asking these particular questions, they must be aware about the online banking. Because what happens is, if at all consumers are not aware about the online banking, then they won't be able to answer these questions. So first I need to explain the purpose of the research, and I need to see to it that whether consumer is using this online banking or not. So my first question is, are you using it or not? So if he or she says yes, then only I would be able to give the question. Otherwise, I will move on to the next one. But if I'm not asking this particular question to the consumer and I'm randomly giving the questionnaire, then this is called simple random sampling. So this is how the various sampling techniques, sampling procedures are going to be changed according to the manner in which you are collecting the data based on the title and objective of the study. Tools for gathering the data. So either you are going for primary research and you can go for face-to-face interview. You can have the survey, mail, through phone interview, online collection of the data, even in online in terms of the downloading of data for the secondary research, especially for the finance faculty, right? They must have to deal with the financial reports and historical price movement of the stock prices. So this kind of data can collect it out. So types of data, it is in terms of nominal, ordinal, and scale data. So nominal means where the sequence of the character, and ratio data means it's a numeric data in terms of financial ratios, financial results, net profit, all such data. So choosing variables of the study. So this is independent. That means they're dependent, and dependent variables are always depends on the independent variable. That is called cause and effect relations. Categorical and continuous. Categorical means categorical variables can be either nominal and ordinal. So in nominal sequence does not matter, in ordinal sequence matters. Just like gender, male and female. So here sequence is not matter. I can put male to be first and female to be first. It's my choice. So this is although categorical data, but sequence does not matter. So it is nominal data. But if I'm asking age to the respondent in terms of 0 to 20, 22, 21 to 40, 41 to 60. So here the sequence does matter. And although it is a categorical data, so it is ordinal data. And continuous data is pure numbers. Like if I'm asking the same questions in age, like this. So respondent will answer 20, 24, 38, right? So this is pure number. So this is called continuous data. Okay. And qualitative and quantity we have already covered. So based on data collection, you can apply various tests like descriptive analysis, chi-square. Based on the reliability and normality, you can either go for parametric or non-parametric test. Exploratory factor analysis, just like we had explained, the importance of the reliability of the data. If your data is not reliable, you won't be able to get the exploratory factor analysis. And if you are unable to get the exploratory, then forget about the confirmatory. It's not possible. Clear? So data reliability is very, very important as far as quality of the research is concerned. Findings and conclusions. So finding and conclusion should be get it out from the data analysis, and you must have to sum up your paper into the precise manner, like 4 to 5 lines. And based on whenever you draft a finding conclusion, you must see to it that you must mention the implications of your research towards the society. That is called societal importance. And then you have to provide the recommendations in terms of further scope of studies and limitations kind of things. And that's it from my side. Thank you so much. I'm making this platform open for the question answer. So if at all you have any questions, you can ask me the questions. I'm ready to answer. Any questions? Any questions, any sort of things which you have not understood, or you have any doubt in this? Related to your research, if you are planning some research paper writings, right?
No question from me.
Okay.
Sir, currently I'm writing a research paper and which I'm going to present in February in IIT Delhi. So
Okay.
in that paper, basically what I did, I went to Karnataka and did a study on a temple. So from that temple, I have, come out with some motifs. I have clicked all the pictures of the temple carving, and I've clicked the pictures, and I've created those, images into CAD drawings. So I have created some CAD motifs, and I did the, evaluation part is done, whereas I have taken 15 experts from the field who analyzed all the motifs and selected 5 best motifs. So is there any statistical test or tool I can apply to validate my research?
I think in your research, basically it is a graphical things that you have covered, right? Any numerical things is not there, no?
No.
So you just have to provide the observations,
Just
based
the
on
weighted
so qualitative research kind of things. So are you from Jaipur, right?
Yeah.
Vivekanand Global University.
Yes. Yes.
So I was there last time. Miss Bola Chaudhary was there, so I was invited over.
I think I have I have attended your session earlier too. So
Okay.
yeah.
Great. So give my regards to her. Thank you.
Sure,
So
sir.
you can go for the qualitative research,
Okay.
right? Because you basically deals with the idea of taking the pictures and scenario analysis. This is called basically scenario analysis.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you just have to observe the scenario and you have to provide your conclusions.
Okay. Okay.
Right?
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? So that's it from my side. Neha madam, over to you. Thank you. Hello. Yeah. Is anybody there? So my session is over. So over to you, Research Foundation of India. Okay, no issue. There might be some technical errors. So thank you so much to all the participants for joining today. Thank you, Research Foundation of India, for inviting Ajay sir, Saurabh sir, and Neha madam for coordinating this sections. And lastly, thanks to W audience for patient listening and giving me this platform to share my knowledge on research paper writing. So you must go for research paper in terms of the quality writing for the Scopus ABDC journals. Right. So research is ongoing process. The more you will involve, the more you will learn. Right. So keep in touch. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.